Hi, welcome to the farm. Today I am canning chicken vegetable soup. I have a good recipe for chicken vegetable and beef vegetable soup. I am using the Ball canning book, the Ball All New canning book recipe. So this is a tested recipe. It is safe. So I've broken it down into the components and numbers, cups and so forth in order to do what I want to do. I'm going to do it in pints. In order to do a full turn of pints, which is 9 pints, my canner holds 9 pints, you will need 4.5 pounds of meat cut into 2-inch or less chunks size-wise. This is chicken. I've used boneless chicken breast. Cut that into 2-inch cubes, or a little bit, some of it's much smaller than 2 inches of cube. I have my vegetables cut up. In this vegetables here, I have potatoes and carrots and onions and celery. To do that, to do a full turn of pints, would take 2 cups each of those: potatoes, onions, celery, and carrots. So then when you fill the jar, of course it takes just about a cup all mixed together. So I've cut all this up, I've washed it, I've got it ready to go. I know that the amount of meat that it's going to take per jar equates to 1 cup of the meat. I've weighed that out. So this is not something that a beginner canner should do. You need to have a little bit of experience in canning, so you know what you're doing, you know how your canner works, whether you have the type of canner that's got the jiggler on top, or if it's like my canner and has the weighted gauge. So you need to know how your canner works. If you're a beginner canner, you probably should start with something like green beans, or maybe tomatoes, or something like that that's a lot simpler and doesn't have to be pressured for so long. So anytime that you're working with meat, you have to be very, very careful, especially chicken. Of course, be very careful how you handle it, and that you've washed your hands and your utensils and everything really well. Also, canning involves keeping the pressure at just the right amount of pressure, so you have to know how to do that and watch that sort of thing. So I'm going to start in here, and I'm going to put a few jars together and show you how it's done, and then I'm not going to wait for the whole process. Canning meats, generally pints will can for 75 minutes at 11 pounds of pressure. Quarts will can for 90 minutes at 11 pounds of pressure, depending on your altitude. You need to know your altitude, so you know how your what weight that your pressure needs to run. Okay, so what I've done is I've got my jars here. I've got them in hot water. So I will take a jar out of the hot water. So they're sterilized. Then we will take our jar filler here, 1 cup of chicken. In this case, I'm doing chicken. I'm going to do beef here in a couple of days, and I may do a video on that. But first of all, the chicken goes in the jar. Then 1 cup of vegetables. I'm using a slotted spoon here so I get all the water out of it. I've had them soaking in water so the potatoes don't turn brown. 1 cup of vegetables. I'm not sure it's going to all go in that jar. So we'll press this down in. There we go. Yeah, that's going to be fine. Okay. In your canning dish, you want to leave a 1-inch headspace. So I see I'm going to have to take a few of these vegetables out in order to do that. Okay, we're going to put 1/2 of a teaspoon of canning salt in there, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. You can use some poultry seasoning if you like that. I just like just plain salt and pepper. This canned chicken soup is so good, and there's several ways you can serve it. You can serve it straight from the jar. In fact, I give a lot of this away for folks who are shut-ins, or if there's been sickness, and or if they're on a soft diet, or you just want a good can of vegetable soup, vegetable chicken soup. It's great for that. Also, you can take this and heat it and add a handful of tortellini to it or other kinds of pasta. That makes a nice addition to the soup. But we've got that. We'll take our broth and pour over that to your 1-inch head space. Take this and run it down in and make sure we've got all the air bubbles out. Turn it around and around, make sure we've got all the air bubbles out. Okay, now then, press that down in again. Take our measure here, that's a 1-inch head space. Now we'll wipe the jar off with a paper towel that's been wet with white vinegar. That makes sure any residue doesn't get on the edge. Then I'll take my jar lid, and I like to, we don't need to soak these in hot water anymore. They don't need to be heated like they used to, but I just kind of dip it in the hot water to warm it just a little bit. Put it on, take our jar ring, tighten it finger tight, and then put it in the canner. You don't want to do several of these. That's called staging, because you want to keep them all even temperature. You want to make sure any bacteria doesn't get in, floating, debris floating in the air, whatever. So you want to do them one at a time. So I'll do another one here. Take the jar out of the hot water. Add 1 cup of chicken, which equates to 1/2 pound. I've weighted that out so I know exactly how much it's going to take. So about 1 cup of chicken. So I'll put that in. All right. 1 cup of the mixed vegetables. Okay. Aside, press that down a little bit. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Add the broth to a 1-inch head space. Make sure you get all the air bubbles out. Okay, and you can check your head space. Okay, 1 inch. Wipe the rim. Add the jar flat, which I've heated. Just dump in the hot water momentarily. The ring on. Finger tight, and then into the canner. The hardest part about this, actually, what takes the longest time, is of course cutting up all the vegetables and getting all of that ready. This video is not going to be very long because this is a very simple part, but again, it's something that you need to know what you're doing. When you're doing canning, you can't take shortcuts. You have to know that your recipe is a tested recipe and that it is safe. You can't just make up anything and throw it in the pot and know that it's going to be safe, because safety is your top priority here. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at bnprayeurlogue, that's bnprayeurlogue @cs.com. Visit my farm blog at www.newmanvalley.wordpress.com. I hope you've enjoyed this, and you too can enjoy great homemade vegetable soup anytime you want it. Have a great day.